Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and hello everyone. Um, in the previous video, we learned about a data structure called a list and how to implement that in Clean, how to use it in Clean. And for whoever did not watch that video, a list is a way to store multiple values, multiple data inside it, starting always from zero position and goes as far as the size of the list. And in this video, we will be covering or tackling down another data structure, which is quite similar to a list. And that data structure is called an array. Note that this course is not quite about data structures, it's about functional programming with Clean. So I'll try to explain arrays and the differences between arrays and lists in a nutshell, very, very naive explanation. And I hope you stick with that. If you want more resources, I'll put it in the description. So to understand what the differences between array and a list, we need to see the following animation. Mainly, the difference between a list and arrays come to how they store the data inside the computer memory, aka the computer RAM. So let's say this ugly drawing represents our computer memory. A list will be storing its data everywhere inside the memory in a random chaotic order, and it will put the data wherever it finds an empty spot. Arrays, on the other hand, are more neat on how they keep data inside the memory. So arrays also store data inside the memory, but in a compact order, in a compact sequence. So whenever you define an array, you expect the data to be so close to each other in memory. So the differences really come to how both data structures are implemented behind the scenes. Simply put, both data structures serve the same concept, storing data in sequential order, but they differ on how they do that. So after knowing the basics about how the list differs from the arrays, how they're implemented behind the scene, you might even ask, why do we have both? Why do we have two techniques for storing data differently inside the memory while both of them serve the same thing? And that is a million-dollar question. And to answer that, we need to see some of the advantages and disadvantages of both techniques. So the main idea is that a list is quite fast, okay, but only fast when it comes to frequently editing the data. If you frequently adding data, inserting elements, taking elements from that list, it's quite fast. It's much faster than arrays. However, an array is much faster when it comes to reading the data, because the data is already stored in a sequential order inside the memory, so it just brings it from that place, while a list stores it in scattering order, so it needs to take these data and put them in a sequential order and then brings them to the developer, to the user. And these are the main differences between them. So without more mumbling, let's start coding. I already went ahead and created a new file, and let's create the start function as always and try to print out an array. The syntax of writing arrays is quite simple. It is same as list syntax. However, we use curly brackets instead of square brackets. That's it. And the data are separated by commas, of course. Now let's try to run our application, and it will not work, of course. However, if we define the function signature for the start, it will run absolutely fine. Nonsense, I know, I hate this programming language. Anyways, arrays are a bit limited, as you can see. Sometimes you will get weird errors, but that is the beauty of arrays, of course. Arrays are actually quite fast in storing and retrieving data. However, knowing how to use them, especially in Clean, is quite tough. Now let's try to look what are the functionalities that we can use with arrays. The easiest way I found to do that is that to just write array, the word array, and then highlight it, and then Ctrl L to search for its definition, or you can go to the search menu on the top and search its definition. The blue window will appear, and let's choose the first one. And we see that we have quite few functions for this data structure. We have two kind of selects, two size functions, an update, two create functions, and finally the replace function. And literally that's it. Quite limiting, sadly. I know that you don't understand now any of the things in the red window, but you'll grasp it. You will grasp them whenever we go to the classes and instances tutorial. Just for now, Now that we have few functions support for arrays. For the sake of simplicity, let's try to use one of these functions. The easiest one is the select, of course, so let's try to use that. And to do that, let's create a new function called the equal selector. It will take an array as an input and return a variable called output. Now let's create the output variable and make it store the result of the select function. Again, in a nutshell, the select function just returns the element from inside the array in a specific position that we gave it. So for example, let's try to return the first element, which is found in the 0 position or the 0 index, and run the application. We get back an error, of course. Arrays, of course. So the problem mainly is because it needs a function signature. So whenever we deal with an array, same as we did with the start, we have to write the function signature. So let's try doing that. As we've been taught, the first thing to do is to write the function name, then double colons, then the input type, then finally an arrow and the output type. By the way, the input type of arrays is defined by curly brackets and the type of the elements inside that array. As we see here, we have curly brackets and integer as input type. And it works fine. Finally, we could select an element from an array. That was not an easy job to select one element from an array. I miss lists. Anyways, I don't want to try the other select because I don't think we are ready for it yet, because it returns a tuple and we have not covered that data structure yet. So I'll just skip that. Now let's try to use another function, an easy function to use, which is the size function, and see if it works. Now for fun, let's try to use the update function and let's see what will happen. I edited the function signature because the update returns an array instead of just a number, and we get an error. Of course, it's clean and arrays, they don't mix together well. Anyway, the idea is that this happens because it needs us to write a specific symbol, the apostrophe symbol, in front of the function signature types. And additional information, I'll come back to this later in future videos. So the information is that the apostrophe symbol just tells clean that the type will be a reference type and we must return a reference. We will understand that in future videos. So if you are an expert programmer, mostly you will know what a reference is, but for absolute beginners, I will prefer to skip the reference part and keep this course as simple as possible, but know that whenever you have a problem with arrays and functionalities for arrays, you just maybe try to use the apostrophe symbol in front of the data structure types of the function input and output types. Now let me write some notes when using arrays in clean. First of all, function signatures are important when dealing with arrays. Second, use apostrophes when you face a weird error. Even that your input and output are correct. Sometimes you will need to put an apostrophe in front of them. Now, the rest of the red document just contains some rubbish. We are not interested in that, so don't mind it for now. And that's it, how to use an array. Congrats, you made it. Was a long video, I know, quite complicated as well. Why do we have two data structures solving the same thing? Explained that and covered how to use that in clean. Also, I try to be concise about both data structures because this is not a data structure course, this is a functional programming language course. So I try to be concise. In the description, I'll try to add as much resources as I can regarding both types, and that's it, I believe. In the next video, we will cover one of the most important topics inside clean, which is recursion. Inside any functional programming language, actually, which is how to do recursion properly, especially in clean. And also, if we have time, we'll cover list comprehension and arrays, array comprehension, of course, arrays and list comprehension, and that's it. See you next video. Thank you for watching. Goodbye. Dang, my hair.